If you see a game at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, you cheer and eat Dodger dogs on the site of a Mexican-American barrio, Chavez Ravine. The community was actually 3 barrios, Palo Verde, La Loma, and Bishop. In July 1950, residents received a notice that their homes would be destroyed to make way for a new public housing project called Elysian Park Heights. An article from the Los Angeles Times, published on August 20th, 1951, shows a simplistic take on the situation. The headline reads, "Settlement losing battle for its life. Bitter residents slowly yield to housing project." The Los Angeles Times was against public housing, allied with LA real estate agents, businessmen, and Republicans. So, every sentence of the article depicts Chavez Ravine residents as victims of the villainous city housing authority. A key section of the article goes, "The village grew slowly. It grew almost completely ignored by Los Angeles. It stayed behind its hills and let the city's towers and freeways rise beyond them. Spanish was spoken more often than English." According to the author, this isolation was unquestionably a good thing, a romantic thing for its residents. But was Chavez Ravine really a tiny Mexican village? And was being ignored by Los Angeles really a benefit? Well, Chavez Ravine was tiny. It had a population of 3,764 in 1950. Most residents were Mexican farmers who escaped from the violence, chaos, and food shortages of the Mexican Revolution, which lasted from 1910 to 1920. Chavez Ravine gave these farmers an opportunity to grow fruits and vegetables and raise farm animals, even though they were only a mile from LA. Its 3 barrios were full of images of La Virgen de Guadalupe, nopales, cascarones, and other signs of Mexican village culture. But the fairly easy access to the nightlife, sports teams, and jobs of the big city made it quite different from a Mexican village. That 1-mile distance from the city resulted in a tight, caring community that was protected from the discrimination of LA government and law enforcement. But it also meant the barrios lacked streetlights, paved roads, and sewage systems. Without nearby doctors or hospitals, infant mortality was very high, and tuberculosis was very common. However, this did result in residents using traditional medicine delivered by indigenous healers called curanderos. Overall, the fact that Chavez Ravine felt hundreds of miles removed from Los Angeles was a mixed blessing. What about the City Housing Authority and its plot to replace Chavez Ravine with a massive public housing complex? It wasn't the cruel, wasteful project the LA Times article made it out to be. Instead, it was a desperate attempt to solve LA's massive housing shortage. The City Housing Authority wanted to use the open space of Chavez Ravine, which then housed 3,764 residents, to shelter a staggering 17,000 residents. These liberal reformers also wanted to replace slums with neighborhoods accepting a variety of economic classes. They declared Chavez Ravine a slum because some homes lacked toilets and running water, and other homes were poorly built. But many residents resented the slum designation. Many didn't want to move out because they liked the isolation, the community, or the farming. Plus, racial covenants, rules banning non-whites from living in certain areas, were still entirely legal in the US. Therefore, the only housing available to Mexican Americans in LA were the urban barrios or Chavez Ravine, which many preferred. Ironically, the Elysian Park Heights development was never built. Public housing lost support when people began to associate it with communism. However, the majority of Chavez Ravine residents had already sold their houses or been evicted. In 1957, LA city government made plans with the Dodgers to use all 300 acres of Chavez Ravine for a new baseball stadium. The LA police forcibly removed the last residents of Chavez Ravine from their homes. And in 1959, Dodger Stadium opened for its first game. The stadium was far more lucrative for Los Angeles than Chavez Ravine could ever be. The stories of Chavez Ravine show there's a historical pattern behind the displacement of Latinos from their homes. Other stories of Latino displacement in LA, like the dislocation of Mexican East LA to build freeways, contain similar combinations of good intentions and bad choices. These days, Chavez Ravine no longer exists, but Latino barrios in LA sure do. And minority displacement hasn't disappeared. Nowadays, we just call it gentrification.